Welcome to another episode of the Self Mastery Podcast with Coach Osmosis. That's the name that I'm going by for now. I know that the name changes quite a lot, but I'm a chameleon, I'm a shapeshifter, and who knows, maybe this is a projection of some kind of internal identity fragmentation. So hopefully one day I'll settle on a name, but for now, Self Mastery with Coach Osmosis. Welcome. Osmosis, if you didn't know, you think of the chemistry word osmosis, right? It's movement from a higher concentration to a lower concentration. This is osmosis, a higher density to a lower density. So osmosis is a hybrid of my name, Usman, combined with osmosis, which is the movement from higher densities to lower densities. So I'm bringing in downloads. That's osmosis. It's me in a conscious state. At least that's what I'm defining it to be. So today, in today's episode, we're going to be speaking about the inner child. And before we get into that, first of all, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone that's supporting the show, people that are downloading the episodes. If you haven't listened to the previous episodes, there's a couple on there. There's a couple in the library, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Castbox. Go and enjoy the other episodes. These are solo episodes for now. But in time, and soon enough, I'll be having some guests on here, and we'll be speaking about deep stuff, and it'll be fun, and yeah, we can have some really good conversations, because that's something that I just love to do. I love to speak and to dive into life. I love to pick it apart, and wow, this is a sport. For those of you that understand, this is a sport. For those of you that understand. So subscribe if you haven't already. Honestly, massive help. Big thank you to everyone that is donating. You can donate to me and this cause, this platform, the running of the whole show, all the work that goes in. I do it full time. This is my full-time thing: podcast, website, membership area, coaching. I'm trying here my best. And you can donate at paypal.me/Usman the Human, USMANTHE, human, HUMAN. So that's that stuff out of the way. This is just something that I must, and I feel strongly to share with you. If you want to support me, help a brother out. Also, just an update. This is the harsh truth, but I thought I was fully healed from ulcerative colitis. It turns out, symptoms have returned. Until now, I've been experiencing bloody diarrhea, intestinal bleeding. So I'm kind of on top of it. I've got my strategy on how I'm going to heal. I've got the products, I've got the tools, I've got the knowledge. It's just about really deciding and sticking to it and saying, right, this is time. But that takes a tremendous amount of discipline, or in fact it had taken a lot of discipline in the past when I'd healed in the past. But wow, I question how sustainable that level of discipline is. Not to get sidetracked too much. Today we'll get into today's topic. We got time. But that level of discipline, of being so restrictive in the diet, and making sauerkraut and making kefir and boom, and it's like it became my whole life healing from ulcerative colitis. I got obsessed with it. Perhaps I'll do an episode on that another time. I'll speak about ulcerative colitis and my journey with it, because I've been better from it for years at a time with no symptoms. And then sometimes the symptoms come back and it's like, there's still work to be done. There's still work to be done. So my whole point, what I'm leading to there, is that the donations are extremely helpful in me providing myself with the right probiotics. I'm ordering probiotics. It's about 200 quid for a couple months supply. So, whew, arigato gozaimasu. Thank you in advance. Arigato gozaimashite. Let's go into today's episode. This is a perfectly imperfect podcast with noises in the background and power tools outside and all of that, because we're in the living world right here. We're in Liverpool. And we're going in for the inner child. I'm going to tell you a story on how I discovered this whole branch of meditation, which is extremely healing for the subconscious and for the shadow part of the psyche, which we'll talk about as well. And I'll offer some guidance, I'll offer some tips that you can use by yourself, because this stuff isn't hard. Self-healing is accessible, and that is something that I would love to create in this world, is a world where self-healing is way more accessible, right? And maybe that puts some of us out of business. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it brings abundance, because it's from an abundance mentality. So that's what I'm bringing in. I'll say it again. A world where self-healing is more accessible. So the inner child, I was out in Italy. I was freestyling, by definition, freestyling. I was hitchhiking from the north to the south of Italy. I'd already hitchhiked with a sister, Gabriella, that I met at a festival like 3 days before, right? Another story. We hitchhike across from France, from England, to the north of Italy. We spend a few weeks in the forest in nature there, in a rainbow community, living in the forest, walk around naked, just being at one with nature, being at one with one another, sharing everything. It was absolutely beautiful, and wow, what an amazing time that was. It was amazing. I did actually for the first time experience a conscious traumatizing of my own psyche whilst being there, though. There was a terrible storm. There was a huge storm, and it was aggressive. And this storm, wow. I mean, go on. I'll speak about it. I'll tell the story. Please let me know in the feedback if you prefer me to just go straight in for the science and the tools and the inner child stuff, or if you like the story, because it's hard to balance this, wanting to make content that's entertaining but also wanting to make content that I want to share, and I just want to be authentic. So please let me know in the comments, or send me some feedback via Instagram at coach.osmosis, and let me know if you enjoy the storytelling. There I am in a storm, and just before the storm arrives, we're chilling like this, hippies out in nature, just boom, chilling, cooking some food on the fire. Someone says, there's a big storm coming, huge clouds. I'm like, yeah, it's fine, don't worry about it, it's all good, let's continue. Literally a few minutes later, hailstones, boom, 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 boom. Heavier, bigger, larger. Wind, strong wind. Okay, things are getting serious now. I had no shoes on at the time. Oh wow, the nearest shelter, we literally just looked around. We found a little shelter that was made out of like a tarp and some wooden poles. We get underneath the shelter, and the wind rips the shelter up from underneath. It caught the tarp. The wind caught in the tarp like a sail, like the sail of a ship, and it ripped it out to the ground. And we're like, yo, 3 hours up the mountain, that's where we are. We're not near civilization. We're not near civilization. So we worked as a team. And it was really powerful, in fact. And there was a moment where I embodied an energy that I haven't experienced so often, but I was proud. I was proud of myself. It was like a leadership energy. And it was like, right, yo, boom, I'm underneath, I'm holding the sheet down, stop it from blowing up, keeping us dry as well. I'm like, you go there, grab that one, there, stay there, we need 2 of you there. Coordination, boom. And we're all there just holding our ground. And in the distance, all I could see was blackness. It was night. And the fire that we have burning for a month at these rainbow gatherings, yeah, that fire was horizontal across the ground. If you can imagine that, horizontal flame, sparks everywhere, and lightning was striking down momentarily, and as it would, I would see the silhouettes of frantically running people. It was a crazy experience. Wow. So I struggled sleeping that night, and everything was okay. A few brothers died in previous storms, in fact, so it's heavy, you know. Nature is not gentle sometimes. And this leads very much into the story of discovering the inner child, in fact, because after this, for the first time, I experienced a healing of trauma using trauma release exercise, TRE. You do some particular yoga exercises. Let me know if you want to know more about this. You do particular yoga exercises, postures, certain exercises to exhaust and fatigue particular muscles, and you position your body in a certain way. Butterfly position with the legs, and you got to be mindful when you're doing this. This is almost psychedelic. This is like, you know, people facilitate psychedelic experiences when it's not a safe environment and they're negligent. And I believe a lot of us in the world, or there are a lot of people in the world that are negligent with the people that are undergoing transformation in their trusting them to facilitate the experience. So here's just the call out: if you're someone that facilitates psychedelic or any healing experience, trauma release, teaching yoga, coaching, I'm calling myself right now, we can't be negligent with these people that are trusting in us. They come in vulnerable, right? And we can only take people as deep as we've gone. So TRE, I've done a lot of it alone, but that's because I have a very strong trained awareness from 10 years of meditation where I don't get lost. Do you know what I mean? I can always bring myself back. I'm always there, watching, conscious. And this takes practice, and you can do it, and everyone can do it. Everyone can do it. It just takes practice. You position your body in a certain way, certain form, and you raise the legs, and then the body starts vibrating. Now, when you look at two ducks on a pond that have a little argument over a piece of bread or some grapes, when they part away from one another after that argument, they shake it off. They do this vibrational. This is a tremor release. This is tension, energy, electricity stored within the nervous system that they are then releasing through movement. But it's not a movement that you do where you're choosing the movement. It's a movement from within. This is why it takes potential facilitation, or for you to have a safe space for you to be in. it's a movement from within. It's an electricity from within. It's a movement that you allow. So it's very relevant when it comes to psychedelics and taking people on healing journeys through any means, because that's from within. That has an intelligence of its own. So it's like an allowing. And I'm there laying there and I'm like allowing this trauma to be released from the storm. Literally, wow, my mind was clear. The repetitive images of the lightning flashes and the feelings of anxiety they weren't present anymore. They weren't coming back. They weren't popping up frantically, invasively, intrusively, just after some trauma release exercise. So healing trauma is extremely powerful when it comes to healing our tormenting mental patterns, right? Or tormenting behavioral patterns. We can take ourselves into real hellish ways of living, and sometimes that can be inflicted upon us, which we are sometimes, if not most of the time, parts of creating as well. But it's something that we are subject to. So the storm, boom, I didn't tell that storm to come, but I did choose to be where I was. Do you know what I mean? So I played the role, it played a role. I had a choice, I also didn't have a choice. Sometimes we don't have a choice and we get traumatized. We have electricity stored within the body and the nervous system, trapped. And it's time to release that, because when we release it, it's like the fog is lifted. It's like the rainy cloud is lifted. And trauma release looks like a lot of emotions coming out sometimes. And so this is the thing, when we allow our emotions to move, when we allow them to move, then we allow the trauma to move, then we allow the clouds to pass. Right? This is in most cases. In some cases, you can be crying and crying and crying and it just doesn't stop. This is a deeper rooted issue where it's almost as if the sink is being filled as it's being emptied. This is something deeper. This is about subconscious beliefs that are continually running a pain cycle. And that is oftentimes rooted in deep trauma or repetitive, habituated, limited thinking. And it just becomes a pattern. So something happens in your life, you think about it a certain way, you feel about it a certain way. Something similar happens in your life, you think about it in a certain way, you feel about it a certain way. It happens again and again and again, and oftentimes this is happening against our will. This is happening out of habituation. So we can choose how we think about situations, and this is the beauty. Let me tone it down. This is the beauty. We can choose how we think. We can choose to go in. We can choose to do the practice. The constant practice of being aware of our thoughts, noticing them, witnessing them, asking, is this beneficial? Is there a better way to see this? Is this vibration serving me? This fear vibration, is it serving me? Okay, then let me switch to gratitude. Let me see something good in this. What's good about this? What's good about this? There's always something good to find in every situation. There's always something bad to find in every situation. So, there's a little background on some travelling for me. I then hitchhiked from the north of Italy alone to the south after the Rainbow Gathering. I stopped by at various different cities, Firenze, Venezia, Bologna, Roma, Napoli, Naples. That place is close to my heart. Naples is close to my heart. I had an amazing time there. Wow. Slept on the street and everything. It was got my side backpack, my day bag. Got it infiltrated by a rat that ate my last arancini. It's like a rice ball. Ate it in the middle of the night. Good times. So, hitchhiking down through Napoli, get to Amalfi. I'm in Amalfi. And this is where the inner child was discovered. Another storm was coming. It was apparently a 3-day storm. Everyone was like, yo, you're going to want to be inside. I mean, they were speaking Italian, but they were saying, you want to be inside? Like, we got a big storm coming. It's going to be like 3 days long. I'm like, terrified. I was terrified, if I'm honest. I'm scuttering around, looking for a place, looking for shelter, looking for a plan. Didn't really know what to do. All I had was a backpack and tent. I was travelling with 700 quid for 2 years. Yep. You get it. You know it. If you want to know how I did that, maybe I'll do an episode on the travels, because I learned how to... I didn't even learn, I just knew how to travel for nothing. And it was by wanting to travel for nothing. Do you know what I mean? So I was a hustler. I was getting free food everywhere. I was sleeping in the tent every night. I was... Wow. Great unknown in the great void. Wasn't addicted to anything then other than approval. Actually, see, we're always going to be addicts in some way. This is the ego. This is the psyche. Trying to reach completion. So, 3-day storm. And it's like, what am I going to do? Eventually I just thought, right, I'm going to sit down in meditation, because this is all I know. This is all I know. Just do it from within. This is it. This is all I'd been practicing for years up until this point. Just do it from within. Everything. You're angry, just solve it from within. That's how I'd think about it. You're sad, solve it from within. Lonely, scared, anxious, depressed, solve it from within. So I sat there, and this is beautiful, because in the strongest unknowns, the most anxious of moments, lies the key for true innovation, true invention of something new. And this was a live experience of that. And this is something I'd love to get more in touch with. In fact, is the innovator inside of me that just discovers how to find inner peace in any situation. And so I was there meditating, and I felt this tremendous fear, and I was trying to shake it, and it just wouldn't go. I was trying to get rid of it, and it just wouldn't go. It was like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to sleep? And so, for some reason, I just saw a child version of me. I saw a baby, like a younger child version of me. And I realised it was him that was scared. He was scared. He was really scared. You know, he was crying. And so I just instinctively did what I would do to a child that was in that state, and I just embraced him. I just said, yo, don't worry, man, I've got you. I'm going to look after you. I'm going to protect you. I'll always be by your side. This is what I told him. I'll always be by your side. And the fear just evaporated and he was just soothed. And I was amazed. I was amazed. I just discovered a new technique, and it was the inner child meditation. It was to see that the intense emotions that we're feeling right now are really just in some way, and I don't know exactly how it works, but in some way it's the inner child who's really feeling that. So it's almost as if this is feelings from the past. Now, okay, yes, yeah, let's say that's what it is according to the research. If you've listened to stuff by Joe Dispenza, this is feelings from the past. Things happen to us at childhood. Things, you know, things that we might not even remember consciously unless you go in. Things that might have been an accident. Babies and kids just get traumatized about all kinds of stuff. It doesn't take much to traumatize a kid. All you've got to do is see a spider and go, oh! And then the child thinks, oh no, the spider's scary, because they've seen your fear. And that's it. It's like they've got a lifelong fear of spiders until they decide to overcome that. So it's a very sensitive situation. However, just from that pointer there, can you see how important it is to heal our fears and to work through healing our inner child, being there for our inner child right now? Because if you're scared of spiders and you teach your kid through your response, which you can't help because it's a reaction, subconscious, it's a habit that's beyond your control, you show that fear and then that child has inherited that. Now that is a minor example. What if you show your violence? What if you show what if you show what happens when you're intolerant to someone or something, and you lash out and you teach that? What if you teach, to be wasteful, to be disrespect, you get it, to be sloth, right? To be lazy. And this is all rooted into our psyche, and there's a million reasons about why we do things and why we don't do things. But if we don't do the work and then we show that to our children, we show that to the babies, then they just become that. And then they've got to spend so much time healing it as well. Do you know what I mean? So part of my mission, part of the whole purpose of me putting out content like this is to instill something that inspires you to do the work on yourself. Right? And if you don't know where to start, book a free call. You can book a free call with me via Instagram at coachesmosis. Get in touch. Maybe I'll even leave my WhatsApp number in the show notes or in the YouTube description. I mean, there's tons of people out there. Get on YouTube, start watching videos about how to improve your life. Listen to podcasts. They're amazing ones. Been listening to Jay Shetty's. Listening to Impact Theory, been listening to mainly Jay Shetty, to be honest, and been really enjoying it. It's inspiring me. So part of my intention, big part of the purpose, is for inspiring you to do the work alone or with help. It's all good either way, because when you do that, the children, they get a better example. We get to be a better example for the children, which means they have less of our baggage to carry, which means they can be innovators. They can be innovators. Boom. They can get the work, they can get the real work done. Do you know what I'm saying? Harmonizing this planet. So, wow, the inner child, yeah. This was a technique discovered from within. This was innovated. And this is very simple to do. So how about we go into some things right now, and ways in which you can get in touch with your inner child. Like I said, I was sitting there in meditation. First thing I can recommend for you is to learn how to meditate. Before you go into some kind of self-hypnotic state, before you go into a place of deep vision, where you're healing the inner child, for example, I think it's important to cultivate a strong sense of awareness so you can hold yourself in meditation, and that takes concentration. So the first step is building concentration. I'd recommend that for everyone that's listening. Let me know in the comments, do you meditate already? I'd love to know. If you haven't meditated, then you can get 14 days free in the online dojo of mine. My meditation course is there. It's an entire course on meditation. Or like I said, get in touch. Maybe we can do something. That's step number 1. Learn how to meditate. Step number 2. Go on. Let me give you something. I hope you're patient with me. I'm not into editing these podcasts, but I want to really authentically give you something of value, something that you can go with today. I reckon you can do it. You know what? I reckon you can do it. Just be there for your inner child. When you experience intense emotion, when you experience intense feelings, anger, sadness, fear, I want you to try and imagine a childlike version of yourself. Or try and see that fear as a child's fear. Try and see it like a child in itself. And instead of trying to push the feeling away, instead of trying to abandon it, abandoning it, be there for it. Be there for it. There's a recommendation. Yeah, I'm happy with that one. Let me know how that goes for you. Honestly, try this stuff out and then let me know through a DM in Instagram or tag me in a post or something. Stories. Because I'd love to know if you experience inner child healing. Clients of mine have done it like that. They've done it themselves. They're doing it themselves. I'm teaching people to do it themselves. This is the thing. Teach someone to fish. Don't give them a fish. And that's what I want to do with my coaching, is to give people the tools, the knowledge, the skills for them to go off and do all the stuff that they need to do by themselves. And, you know, if they need someone to hold them accountable, then I'll be there again. But ultimately, it's about equipping you. It's about equipping you with the tools so you can navigate life your way. You know what I'm saying? So let's address the world leaders. Let's address most of the adults in the world today, and let's also address how the inner child healing of the world, I'm talking healing all of our inner children, is absolutely necessary, if not urgent. Because we've got certain leaders in the world, and I'm not sitting here saying I do a better job at leading a country. No, I'm not gonna. I've never been one to say, this president or this prime minister's this or that, and insult them. Would you do a better job? Like, honestly, I don't know. I don't know if I'd do a better job. So a lot of these politicians are operating from the wounded child. And the reason why I can say that is because most of us are operating from the wounded child. In fact, when we want to inflict violence upon one another, or control, or when we simply haven't done the work, when we simply aren't doing the work, when we're not looking within regularly, we oftentimes revert back into the inner child in the midst of situations. Even if you are a regular meditator, you go home to your parents' house, you'll get tested big time. And look how you revert back into childlike ways when you go to your parents' house, and then it frustrates you and you don't like it. Do you know what I'm saying? We don't like it. And it causes friction and like patterns repeat and repeat. And that's because we're reverting back into our childlike states. And so a lot of these childhood wounds are running the show today for many of us adults. And so you might be in an adult body, but if you're still operating from pain, you're still operating from what was, you're still operating from not feeling good enough, trying to prove yourself, trying to be right. This is one that I keep seeing so much of. As I'm healing it in me, as I'm ascending it in my DNA, I'm noticing it so much. This need to be heard, the need to be right. And you know, what's the true prevention for all of this stuff? I mean, right now, for us that aren't babies anymore, the solution is to do this inner work and heal. Now, this is one way of doing it. I'm sure there are many others. But the inner child meditation is super powerful, and you can do it yourself. Anywhere. Doesn't matter where you was. I was in the middle of Amalfi Coast, just chilling. So that's one way, is doing the healing work ourselves. But another way is by preventing it. And that's by actually being there for the children. That's by actually being present with the children. That's by not like self-medicating around the children. But, I mean, there are many reasons why we do things. And I like to say there are three, or that these are three main choices, things that drive our choices. It's either we can do things from a place of discipline, we can do things from a place of responsibility, or a place of self-love. And I'm sure there are others too, but these are three main. And when we do things from a place of discipline, it's like willpower. Self-love, it's like, wow, I love my body and I'm compassionate for my digestion that's been struggling. So why would I eat really fast? Why would I eat loads and loads and loads and loads of food? Out of love, and when we're in a place of love, we can do the loving things for ourselves. Especially when you're really in touch with your body. Love. And that drives. And a labour of love, Paul Chek says, is consistent. You can keep up a labour of love. A mum gives birth and goes through all that pain because it's love. If she was getting paid to go through that and there was no baby at the end, I think it might be a different story. So a labour of love is consistent. So self-love is a really powerful one for us to make choices from. And then there's responsibility. And responsibility drives us to make choices. You know, we can say, hey, it's important for us to heal the inner child because we have a responsibility for the future children. We also have a responsibility if we are to be real innovators in this time. Bear in mind, those of us same age as me, similar age, around 27, we've got plenty of time to be innovators. So it's like, let's clean up stuff that doesn't belong anymore. Let's heal this stuff up, clean up. And we can really innovate and create something new that's not rooted in the same fear patterns. Fear patterns of the wounded child who's scared to go out, who's scared to ask for a hug, who's scared to ask for what they want, who's scared to laugh and dance and sing. You know what I'm saying? How many of you feel awkward to dance without having a drink? How many of you feel awkward to dance without having a smoke or whatever kind of substance? Or sing in public? Or even sing in front of your family? We gotta learn to do these basic things. This is part of healing the inner child. And this is why some of the most powerful questions we can ask, and I got these from Paul Chek. The man, big love to you, Paul, and I hope you get to listen to this podcast because I'm getting you on here. One day, I'm getting you on here. Paul Chek was saying that some of the main questions that get asked to those that go to shamanic healers is, when did you stop singing? When did you stop dancing? When did you stop enjoying stories? When did you stop enjoying time alone? These are all things that we used to do as babies and children. We were interacting with the world, and it was a symbiotic, beautiful feedback experience that was taking place, where you touch that and then you learn that, and it's like, wow, I touched that and then I learned that, and it's like constant mutation. And when we stop mutating, we become stagnant. This is very much because we've lost touch with our inner child and we've become way too serious. So as we approach the end of this podcast, I want to start talking about why we should be getting more into, why we should get back in touch with the inner child. You know, this is real healing, and this is actionable healing. And sometimes with the meditative healing, it's kind of just like, right, how much can I just sit here and do this within? And it does depend on the strength of your practice. But sometimes, if not when the time arises, it's time to put action to this. It's time to do. And so it's time to sing. It's time to dance. It's time to have fun. It's time to just do it, even if you don't feel like doing it. Put some music on and just like colour the room, colour the space, right? Notice if you're living and it feels grey. Notice if you're just doing the same thing every day, day in, day out, day in, day out. And break the pattern for the sake of breaking the pattern. Because when you break the pattern, you create space for innovation. You create space for new. Create space for better. That's if you want to improve. You know, there's a real beauty to just simply living and like not wanting to improve and not needing to improve because you're happy. And if you're there, then great. But if you want to improve, then break the patterns, break the cycles, and allow the curiosity, the wonder, the mystery, and the naivety, in a way, innocence of the inner child. Look at all these words. They have a vibration, innocence. Connect to that. A really simple way is just to take a walk and go somewhere that you haven't been, or take a route that you haven't been. If you usually go that way because it's quickest, take the long route. Or take the off route, go off-road, go for a little adventure in the bushes. Just mix it up. Just mix it up. There are certain scientific ways that you can go about doing this too. Certain mechanical, scientific ways that you can help activate this process, I've found. And that's literally just by breaking your cycles. But I'm talking the micro cycles, like what hand you brush your teeth with, and how you brush your teeth, and where you brush your teeth. That's something that's quite regular all the time. What part of the bed you sleep on, what side of the bed you sleep on. Do you know what I'm saying? Switch it up. Meal times, when you usually eat, this is another one. You can switch that up. You can harmonise that with nature, but that's a whole other story about lining with natural order, which is something I'm discovering at the moment, which is very much about allowing health through simply being natural, simply living in line with nature. I'll give you more on that as I learn more. But yeah, break the cycles. Break the cycles. Just do something different tonight. Do something different tonight. If you're thinking that you usually come home and then you eat that thing and you watch that show and you maybe just inject a little bit of reading in there, or a little bit of yoga in there, or watch a informative video, or create something, draw. That's a final little point I'd like to add. You know, I used to love drawing as a child, and there's another question I'd love to ask you. What is something that you used to love doing as a child? This podcast is now designed to get you to think and to get you to interact so that you actually benefit. So what's something that you used to really love as a child that you don't do anymore, you haven't done anymore, that you've been thinking about doing? I used to draw. I used to love just pencil and paper, or pen and paper. And that's something that I'd like to invite more of in my life. So if you want to see some drawings, maybe I'll upload them to Instagram soon. And I'll show you that I've been practicing this as well. And I'd love to know what it is that you love to do when you were a child that you haven't really been doing anymore. You haven't been doing recently, or you haven't done for some time, and you've been thinking about it. Let us know what that is in the comments, and also do it and tag me in your posts. Coach Osmosis at Instagram, coach.osmosis. You can find links for everything in the description, and yeah, let's actually get active with this healing and not just talk about it, but do things. So, big love, wishing you all well. Thank you if you listened all the way through to the end of this episode. I hope you benefited, I hope you learned something. If you did, subscribe and like the episode. I know you hear everyone use those words who creates content, but they're saying it for a reason. Subscribe and like the video if you're watching on YouTube. And subscribe and like the episode if you're listening on any podcasting app. Rating the podcast would be super helpful. So please leave a rating, a review, a few words, honest words, and I would absolutely love that. That would be so helpful. So, like I said, if you want to follow me on Instagram, coach.osmosis, if you want to know more about what I do as I serve and I coach and I teach yoga, meditation, then go to selfmastery.com. That's slfmastery.com, no E, slfmastery.com, all one word. And if you'd like to donate, especially if you'd like to help me fund regular probiotics, high quality probiotics, so that I can heal my intestines. I'm also making some home ferments as well, like sauerkraut, but this stuff, it does help, and I'm giving it a go this time because I did it all with natural stuff last time, and yeah, I got better, but it wasn't proper. I was getting really bloated, and look, I ended up sick again anyway. So I want to do it proper this time. I'm going in with the probiotics. They cost money. Like I said, it's about 200 quid for 3 bottles. But hey, health is the most important thing, and I'm willing to be an example of someone who says, I want to invest in my health, that it is important to invest in my health before I invest in anything. So that's what I'm here to do, and I hope that you can support me if that's something that you want to do. If I've helped you in any way in your life, if this podcast is helping you, or any of the YouTube videos, why not? Leave a one-time donation. If you want to be extra generous, I'll welcome that abundance. So I'm wishing you loads of love. Stay tuned for more episodes. We can talk about the whole journey with ulcerative colitis and how I've connected that to Chinese medicine, Eastern and Western science. I'm connecting all kinds of dots. It's super powerful, and the gut microbiome is the future. The health of the gut microbiome is the future. That's a prediction of mine. Trust me, it's going to blow. It's going to be huge. Stay tuned to hear more about that. And for future episodes, make sure you've subscribed and share this episode with anyone. Absolutely anyone that you think might benefit. Anyone that suffered with trauma. Anyone that could do with some inner child healing. Anyone that is looking to improve and heal and better themselves and thrive on earth. Share this podcast with anyone you know that's going through a hard time, because it could be rooted in inner child pain. And if you think even especially someone needs guidance then get them to book a free call. Links to everything in the description and the show notes. Much love to you. If you want to be a guest on the show, reach out to me. Let's talk, let's dive deep. Because I ain't afraid to do that. And I hope you're not afraid to, and the world needs it. So, much love. And it's just fun, isn't it? To speak about stuff. Peace.